being able to look at any powerful system, any government, any empire, any institution, and know exactly how and when it will start to fall. Not a guess, as a pattern, a repeatable, historically verified sequence that has played out without a single exception across every major civilization in recorded human history. That pattern exists. Historians know it, economists know it, political scientists know it, and the people running these systems know it too, which is why nobody teaches it to you in school. By the end of this video, you will know it, and once you do, you will never look at the world the same way again. Every civilization that ever fell thought it was the exception. Rome looked at the civilizations before it and said, "We are different. Our institutions are stronger. Our culture is deep. Our empire is too vast, too organized, too powerful to follow the same." Britain said the same thing. The Ottoman Empire said the same thing. Every single one of them was wrong. Not because they were weak, because they were successful. And success, it turns out, is the most dangerous thing that can happen to a civilization. Here is why this matters to you personally. You were born into a system that is showing every single one of those warning signs right. The inequality is structural. The institutions are decorated. The leaders are optimizing for the next election, not the next century. And the most important question, the one that actually matters, are the most dangerous one to ask out loud. You feel it, even if you can't name it. That low level uneasiness, that sense that something is fundamentally wrong with the world you inherited. That feeling is not anxiety, it is pattern recognition. And today we are going to name exactly what that pattern is. Most people think civilization fall because of outside enemies, invasions, natural disasters, economic shocks. That is the comfortable explanation because it means the collapse come from somewhere else, from something uncontrollable, from forces beyond anyone's ability to predict or prevent. Here is the uncomfortable truth. Every major civilization that has ever collapsed was already collapsing from within long before the final blow landed. The invasion did not destroy Rome. Rome destroyed Rome. The invasion just finished the job. And the pattern that destroyed Rome, the exact same sequence of events, has repeated itself across every major civilization in recorded history without a single exception. I have spent weeks inside this research, reading historians, economists, political scientists, and people who lived through these collapses and wrote about them in real time. I am going to show you the pattern, not as ancient history, as a mirror held up to right now. Here is how we are going to go through it. First, the pattern itself, what it is and why it keeps repeating. Then, Rome, how the most successful civilization in Western history built itself and then broke itself with its own success. Then, Britain and the arrogance of invincibility. Then, the four specific warning signs that appear in every single collapse without exception. Then, the mirror, because those four warning signs are not history, they are today. And finally, what history is actually trying to tell us. Because this video is not about doom, it is about the choice that awareness makes possible. If you have ever felt like the world you inherited was built for someone else to win, this video is going to explain exactly why that feeling is historically accurate. Subscribe before we go further. This channel exists to show you patterns hidden in the plain sight. Now let's get into it. Every civilization that had ever existed believed it was different. Rome believed its institutions were too strong to fall. Britain believed its empire was too vast to collapse. The Ottoman Empire believed its longevity was proof of permanence. Every single one was wrong, not because they were weak, because they stopped being able to see themselves clearly. Historians have studied the collapse of over 20 major civilizations. The causes listed are always different on the surface: barbarian invasion, economic collapse, climate change, military overextension. But underneath every surface cause is the same deeper pattern. The civilization already hollowed itself out from within long before the final blow landed. The invasion did not destroy Rome. Rome destroyed Rome. The invasion just finished the job. This is not ancient history. This is the pattern, so consistent across time and geography that it functions more like a law of nature than a historic coincidence. And once you see it, you can't unsee it, and you start seeing it everywhere. But to truly understand the pattern, you need to see it in action. And there is no better place to start than the most powerful civilization the Western world has ever produced. Rome did not start as an empire, it started as a republic built on a radical idea that no single person should hold absolute power. Checks and balances, Senate oversight, term limits, citizen participation. For centuries, this system produced the most stable and most expensive civilization that the Western world had ever seen. Then success happened. Rome got rich. Rome got powerful. Rome got comfortable. The same senators who were supposed to check powers started buying it. The same military that defended Rome started making and unmaking emperors. The same citizens who built Rome started demanding bread and circus instead of accountability. By the time Julius Caesar crossed the Rubicon, the Republic was already dead. The institutions existed on paper. The spirit that built them has been rotten for a century. Rome was not destroyed by Visigoths in 410 AD. Rome was destroyed by what Rome became after it won. Success created comfort. Comfort created complacency. Complacency created rot. The Visigoths just walked through a door that has been left open for 100 years. Rome is the most well documented example, but it is not the only one, because roughly 1400 years after Rome fell, another civilization made the same journey. Different continent, different century, identical pattern. At its peak, the British Empire controlled 24% of Earth's land and 23% of the world's population. One in the four human beings lived under the British flag. It was the largest empire in human history, and it collapsed within a single lifetime. The collapse was not military, the collapse was psychological and economic. Britain spent so much maintaining its empire that it bankrupted itself doing it. It became so convinced in its own civilizational supremacy that it could not adapt when the world changed around it. The same confidence that built Britain became the blindness that prevented it from seeing its empire ending. Decolonization did not happen to Britain. Britain created the conditions for it through decades of extraction and the assumption that what had always worked would always work. The most dangerous moment for any civilization is not weakness, it is the peak of its power. Because at the peak, the assumption of permanence becomes absolute, and the assumption is always wrong. Rome fell from within, Britain fell from within. The Ottoman Empire, which lasted over 600 years and at its height controlled three continents, fell from within. The pattern is not a coincidence, it is a sequence, and the sequence has specific, identifiable warning signs that appear every single time. Across every collapsed civilization, four warning signs appear consistently. They appear early, they are always visible, they are always ignored. Warning 1: Inequality becomes structure. The gap between the powerful and everyone else stops being a difference of degree and becomes the difference of kind. Two separate realities existing inside one civilization. The powerful live by different rules, face different consequences, and exist in a fundamentally different world from everyone else. Warning 2: Institutions become decorative. The structures that were built to distribute power start only to concentrate it. Laws exist for only some people. Court exists but deliver outcomes depending on who is standing in them. The institution remains. The function it was built for disappears. Warning 3: Short term thinking replaces long term planning. Leaders start optimizing for next session, not the next century. Infrastructure decays. Education weakens. The investments that build the civilization stop being made because their returns are too slow for the people whose power depend upon the next election or the next conquest. Warning 4. The civilization stop being able to have honest conversations about itself. Criticism becomes treason. Dissent becomes dangerous. The empire starts believing its own propaganda. The gap between what is actually happening and what the official story says is happening grows wider every year, and everyone who points to the gap treated as problem. These are not random. They are the predictable symptoms of turning success into self-destruction. Read those four signs again. Then look around you. Not at Rome, not at Britain, at right now, at today, at the world you woke up in this morning. This is the part of video nobody wants to get to because it is easy to study the fall of Rome as history than to recognize Rome in the mirror. Structural inequality. The eight richest people on earth own more wealth than the bottom 50% of humanity combined. That number has been verified by multiple independent sources, and it keeps getting extreme, not less. Warning 1, check. Decorative institutions. Democratic system across the world where elections are shaped by the concentration of more money than by the distribution of votes, where laws exist on paper for everyone but function practice for some. Warning 2, check. Short term thinking. Not a single government on earth seriously planning beyond the next election cycle on the issues that will define the next century. Climate debate, demographics, automation, all of them being maintained for short term political survival, not long term civilizational health. Warning 3, check. Inability to have honest conversations. The most important questions civilization facing are the most politically dangerous to ask out loud. The people who ask them are called radicals, extremists, or troublemakers. The gap between official reality and actual reality grows wider every year. Warning 4, check. Every civilization that fell thought it was different. They thought their institutions were stronger, their culture more resilient, their movement in history more important than the ones before. They were not different, and neither were we. The pattern does not care about our technology, or our confidence, or our belief in our own exceptionalism. It has never cared. It just keeps running. But here is what matters. Knowing the pattern is not the same as accepting the outcome. And that is exactly what history is trying to tell us in its final chapter. This video is not a prediction. It is not an argument that collapse is inevitable or that nothing can be done. It is something more uncomfortable than that. Every civilization that collapsed had people inside it who saw it coming. Rome historians wrote about the rot decades before the fall. British economists warned about the imperial overextension a generation before it ended. The Ottoman intelligentsia documented the decline in real time. They were ignored, not because the warnings were unclear, because the people with the power to act had too much invested in the current system to change it. The warnings existed, the awareness existed. What was missing was the willingness to act on what was already known. History is not a story about the past, it is a mirror. And right now, it is holding that up and showing us something we have already known, but we have not yet decided to take it seriously. The question is not whether we have the same pattern. We do. The question is whether we are the generation that does something different with that knowledge, or whether we became another chapter in the same book. So here is where this leaves you. You come into this video knowing that Rome fell, the Britain fell, that every great empire in history eventually collapsed. That was not new information. What is new is the pattern underneath it, the sequence, the fact that it was never random, never unpredictable, never inevitable in the way we pretend it was. It was always a choice, a series of small choices made by people who knew better and chose comfort instead, who saw warning and decided someone else would deal with them, who had the awareness and did nothing with it. That is the most unsettling part of all of this. Not that civilization fall, but that the people inside them has always enough information to do something different and didn't. Now we have that information. And that changes something because you can't unknow a pattern once you've seen it. You cannot look at inequality, at hollow institutions, at short term thinking, at the inability to ask honest questions and pretend it is normal background noise anymore. It is not background noise. It is the sound of civilization making the same choices that have ended every civilization before it. The question history is asking you right now is not whether you understand the pattern, you do. The question is whether you are willing to be a part of a generation that will do something with that understanding. Not because it is easy, not because one person can fix a civilizational pattern, but because awareness shared is the only thing that has ever changed the direction of history. Every reform, every revolution, every moment when a civilization pulled back from the edge, it started with people who refused to pretend they did not see what they were seeing. You see it now. This channel exists for exactly this, to show you the patterns that powerful systems have hope you never recognize. Subscribe because next week we will go even deeper into the systems that are shaping our world right now. And because the more of us who can see clearly, the harder it becomes for the pattern to keep running unchallenged. History is not asking you to save the world. It is asking you something smaller and harder than that. It is asking whether you are paying attention,